Hello, I'm Dr. Yvette Rubidoux, and I'm the Vice President for Research and the Director of the Policy Research Center at the National Congress for American Indians. Today, I'd like to share some mapping resources for you to look at 2020 census self-response rates by households in your area. I'll show you how to use the census website map and another easy-to-use map called the Census Hard to Count 2020 map. And while the data may not be perfect for your tribe or area, at least these maps can help you follow progress for your tribe or area, because the end of the 2020 census count we're learning is coming up very quickly. So first, I would like to show you the Census Bureau map that shows the 2020 census self-response rate. You can Google 2020 census response rate, or you can go to a particular link. I'm going to put the link in a URL on the browser. So let me switch screens. All right, I'm going to enter. It's 2020census.gov as the site that you go to. But Googling 2020 census response rates will get you here as well. So this is what the website looks like. It's the U.S. Census Bureau 2020 census and its response rates. Here you will find daily updates on the overall internet and mail phone response rates by certain census geographies. You can look at the national rate, state rates, county, city, congressional district, and tribal area response rates. So for example, if you scroll down, you can see there's a map. It shows the national self-response rate at the top of 63.1%. And then it shows the state in comparison. So if you look at the menu on the right, make sure it's today's date, and then select the mode here as total. It has an option where you can see the internet response. But here we're just going to look at the total rates. And then you can select other geographies that you'd like to look at. So you will see that it automatically gives you a national map and select state automatically. And the various colors on the graph represent the percent of all households in that geography that have already responded to the census online and or by mail phone. The blue colors mean higher rates, and the orange colors mean lower rates. So it shows the national self-response rate, and clicking on a state, it will show the rate for comparison. So if you look at Minnesota, the state overall looks like it's doing well. If you hover the cursor over the state, you'll see that the total response in Minnesota is 72.3% of all households. And of that, 60% was internet response. And that's a big trend. During the COVID pandemic, a lot of the response has been, internet. But if you hover over Alaska, for example, the total is 49.6%. And that's lower than the final 2010 response rate of 55.6. And 39% of that is internet. And Puerto Rico is in the orange. It's very low. The response rate is only 27.9%. And so you can see overall how your state is doing by just clicking on the state and hovering over the cursor over it to see that pop up with a comparison. If I were to click on a state, let's say I'm clicking on Arizona, up at the top, it will highlight the state and show you the response rate at the top. But that's just for the state level. You also have the ability to look at county, city, congressional districts, and tribal areas. So let's go ahead and try to look at tribal areas. So go back to the right-hand menu, and for select state, just go back to all, and then click on at the bottom on tribal areas. Takes takes a minute, but you can see now that many tribal areas will show up on the main map, and unfortunately a lot of them are orange or yellow, meaning that they have lower self-response rates. So for example, let's click on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. You can see that it will pop up on the map, and then if you hover the cursor over it, it will show you that the response rate is 16.6% of all households, and of that, 6.6% is internet, which is not surprising. And then there's also, once you click on the tribal area, a new option comes up, which is tribal tract. If you click on that, you can see that the reservation area is further divided into tracts that have different response rates. Here it's 14.1%, and here it's 29.9%. Those may be helpful to look at what's going on in your communities. This map is relatively easy to use, and I really encourage you to use it and check back frequently because it is updated daily. However, the challenge with this map is it doesn't easily combine geographies. So today I'd like to show you another map that's publicly available and that's easy to use and gives you more information based on the Census's 2020 response rates, the same rates that you see on their website. So what you can do now is Google the words Census 2020 hard to count map, or I'm going to show the URL for the address that I want us to go to. Census hard to count maps 2020.us. I really like this map because you can overlay the geographies and you can see a lot more. And it does have tribal areas. So first, you notice the map in the center. And on the left side, there is a Show Info For menu at the top that is set at states when you first arrive at the site. So you can see the response rates for all states on the map according to the color scheme on the legend on the lower right. So again, the blue colors are good response rates, and the yellow, orange, and red colors are the lower response rates and indicate actions needed, especially now that the time period for enumeration was just shortened by the Census Bureau to September 30th rather than the end of October. So when you see reds and oranges and yellows on the map, time to act. So let's start by looking at the national response rate on the left. And you can see that it's 63.1 as of August 5th, and that it's only 3.4% below the 2010 response rate. There's a cool graph below it that shows the rates over time, and you can see that on August 5th, the 63.1% response rate is made up of 12.7% mail phone return and 50.4% internet return. So nationally, the contribution of completing the census has been mostly by internet, and that makes sense because we've been in a COVID pandemic. And you can see it also highlights how many points it's away from the 2010 final rate if that's available for the geography that you're looking for. So now let's look at a state and see how we can look at tribal land response rate. So the first thing, for example, let's click on Arizona. You can get there one of two ways. You can search for it up at the top, or you can click on it. And I'm going to show you how you click on the state. That will select it. And then you can just zoom in with the controls down here and get closer to the state. And then you can move the map around and get a good look at it. Now, you will notice that when you do this, it sort of automatically gives you the response rate by county. And so you can kind of figure out where your tribe is and then figure out what county you're in and see what the overall county rates are. But I actually like starting with the tribal land overlay and then putting the different other geographies on top of it. So if you go down to the legend, you can see it's on 2020 data. You could look at 2010 data and compare. And when you click on the state, it automatically shows the county self-response rates, and here's the legend for where you're at. I actually like looking at the tribal lands first, so go down to more map features, click on that, and then turn on tribal lands. And you can see the tribal lands start to appear. They're a little hard to see. So then click off the county self-response rate on the legend. And then you get a map that really clearly shows you the federally recognized tribal lands that the Census Bureau provides in terms of geocoded IDs for geography information for this mapping work. So then I like to start here and then map the overlay. So now if you can go back to the legend, click on self-response rate by county, and it will show you the response rates by county, and you can see the tribal lands underneath the county rate. You can also click on self-response rates by tract on the legend, and it further divides up for your state what the response rates are by census tract. Now, let's say that you wanted to look at your particular tribal rates, because the Census Bureau does have that for tribal lands. So let's try to click on the Hopi Reservation. You click on the map, it just clicks there and it doesn't really change. So what you have to do is go back over to the left upper legend where it says show info for, and you can change the geography to tribal lands. And when you do that, it highlights the area that you clicked on. So here, it clicked on Hopi, and it's highlighting that. Now, if I hadn't have clicked right on the Hopi reservation, it might also show you other reservation lands and highlight the Navajo lands. But you can just click more specifically on the tribal land that you're looking at. You also can go up to the search menu up at the top, and you can type in Hopi Reservation, and it'll do the same thing, but it'll give you a more close-up look. But before we do that, notice that if you look on the left side, for the Hopi Reservation, the response rate as of 8/5 is 12.8%. And it's dark orange, so it's obviously on the lower side. You can go down to this graph, the trend line, and see that you gotta have good steady hands. Of that 12.8%, 10.7% is mail and phone, and only 2.1% is internet, which is different than the national response, but makes sense for the internet coverage that might be out in that area. And notice it also says it's above the 2010 final rate, but 12.8% is low, and we definitely would want that to be higher. Now, these numbers change every single day, so once you establish how to use this map, you can go back every day and look at the rate and see how it changes. So there's another way that you can show the information for your tribal land. So if you go up to make sure that the Show Info tab says Tribal Lands, and then go to the search box, and let's look at Tohono O'odham. Okay, there it is. Click on that. When you go in the search box, it gives you an automatic closer view. And you can see that it also is showing by census tract. And you can see that it's a lower number, but it doesn't show you what the rate is for the tribal land because it defaulted to tract. So let's go up again on Show Info for on the upper left and go down to tribal lands. And so you'll see there's not really much of a change here. But you know that it's dark orange, so that you know that that you need to, if you click on it more, then what it will do on the left screen is give you the tribal response rate, which is 16.3% on this date. And it has a comparison to the final self-response. And if you go down to the trend line, try to get it right on August 5th, it shows of the 16.3, 9.9% is mail and phone, and 6.4% is internet, and it's 28.8 points lower than the 2010 final rate. And so, you can see the outline of the reservation well. You click on that, and basically the color helps you see sort of in comparison to other counties or tracts, depending on what you select, what the response rate is in your tribal response. So they have on the legend on the right, they just added a button where you can compare 2020 to 2010. You click on that. If it's red, that means you're more than 10 points behind 2010, but for some reason, a lot of the tribal lands don't show up on the map, but you can see other places in the state where it's under the 2010 response rate it's under the 20 by more than 10%. So now let's go back to 2010 data and unclick the compare, and then click on county, and then zoom out to Arizona. Oops, too far. All right. They now have a button on the legend on the right that says bottom 20% self-response rate 2020 for the whole nation. If you click on it, the sort of pinkish red means in the bottom 20% of self-response rate for 2020. You can see not only is the reservation land in that category that we looked at for Tohono O'odham Nation, but it's for many other lands. I'm going to turn that button off and get back to where we were. So on this particular website, there's two more resources that might be helpful for you. So first, if you go to the top, there's a button that says Data Trends on the menu. So select that. It takes a minute to load, and what we're going to do is look at a particular state's trends on response rates by county or by city. So I know it's taking a minute to do that because it's a complicated website. Let's select Arizona again. All right, you can see this is from April clear up until now, so it's the daily response rate. And the colored lines are basically in that county, what is the plurality or the highest percent of contact strategy? Was it internet first, internet choice, update leave, update enumerate, or remote Alaska, or this, and what was the state response rate in the blue? So you can compare. We know that, a lot of tribal areas are update leave. So, but they don't show on this page. You only can see cities and counties. But you can click on your county and see what kind of contact strategy there was by the Census Bureau. So let's go to the bottom line. It's Apache County, Arizona. And that includes tribal lands. And you can see it's the lowest of all the counties in terms of the response rates, and then you can see the overall internet and mail response rate. You can also click on the cities bar, and it will show those trend lines, but it only shows the major cities. It doesn't necessarily show a tribal city. There's now another thing that I would like to show you, or the last thing on this map, which I really like using. So if you go back to the Hard to Count 2020 map and show info for states, and then click on Arizona again. Once it's all loaded up, you can scroll down this menu looking at the response rates compared to 2010 and the response rates by day and other things. Down here, there's something called downloadable files for Arizona. If you click on, and these are, basically you can download data into PDF files that you can use. And so the one I really like is the map of the Census Bureau contact strategies. Well, let's click on that. And what it gives you is a PDF of what were the initial Census Bureau's contact strategies in the state of Arizona. And you'll notice that it has in yellow, hand-delivered packet or update leave. And we know a lot of tribal areas had that strategy, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, people haven't been able to do the update leave very well, especially if the tribal borders have been closed to protect their citizens during the pandemic. And so this map can tell you whether what your area was designated first, either as the mailing or the update leave, or whether it also was update enumerate. So it's helpful for each state. You can find out what that was. So I really like this Hard to Count 2020 census map because I think it's really easy to use, and you can combine all the different geographies that are available. There is one caveat, though, that people who use this map told me that there's a problem with Oklahoma. They don't show the Oklahoma tribal statistical areas. I've reached out to the Census Bureau to try to figure out why they don't have those response rates. But you can look at the counties and the census tracts in Oklahoma and get similar information, but it would help to have those tribal areas. So these are the two maps that I think are really the easiest to use to visualize daily census self-response rates. We actually have another map that we've been working on with other civic engagement organizations that we would like to send you more information about a little bit later this month that can give you even more detail, even though it doesn't have tribal lands information, it can help you get down to even census tract level or even the block level. So we will get you that information soon. Watch our website and social media for updates. So please make sure to encourage everyone to complete the census. It's extremely important. It's important for our representation. It's important for tribal governance. It's important for federal funding formulas. And it's important for research and public health surveillance. So we really need the most accurate count that we can get, and we have to do it quickly because the Census Bureau just shortened the timeline for enumeration, which we're not happy with. But we hope that these maps can help you. I've put my contact information up on the slide now, but I encourage you to contact our Indian Country Counts NCAI team. Their email address is census@ncai.org. They actually have some resources and assistance for you if you need help with trying to not only figure out what the status of your response rates are in your tribal lands or your area, but they also have resources that can help you with the count. So anyway, thank you so much for attending this webinar video today on two really helpful census response rate maps. I encourage you to see what the response rates are in your area and to take action now and contact our census team if you need any help. And watch for announcements for the other map that we're going to tell you about probably in a couple weeks, but hopefully before the end of August. Thanks a lot, and I hope you have a great day.